Could Six Flags memberships eventually replace traditional season passes? Alongside Ryan Sir, I'm Don Helbig. And on this episode of Tower Topics, we take a closer look at what this shift could mean for guests and why membership may become the preferred option for many visitors.
Tower Topics drops 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So hit that subscribe button on YouTube or follow us on your favorite podcast apps.
So, Ryan, the expansion of Six Flags membership, that program to Kings Island, Carowinds, Kings Dominion, Dorney Park, Knott's Berry Farm, Schlitterbahn, New Braunfels may represent more than just another ticketing option. It could offer a glimpse into the future of how the new Six Flags builds loyalty and generates revenue. Guests at those parks now have access to memberships that include year-round admission, regional park access, monthly payment options, and benefits ranging from parking and discounts to skip-the-line privileges. Six Flags has positioned the program as an alternative to the traditional season pass rather than a replacement. For now, that appears to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, when it boils down to it, we both kind of saw this coming. But when it comes down to it, is this is going to branch off, because either this was a very successful program for Six Flags and they're expanding it to some of the other parks, which we both hope is the case, or Six Flags did this. They started about 10 years ago. They kind of got stuck with it since it's a monthly plan thing. You can't just say like, no, we're going to stop this now. You have to buy your pass outright. And this is a death whale. And honestly, I'm going to go ahead and say this out front. The reason why they're doing this is because they want to, in mid-April of next year, be like, we had the best Q1 in the history of the company. We got so much revenue from our season pass membership program, because they wouldn't be getting revenue from that January, February, and March. That's Q1 for them. So they want to be able to report that, and they will report that, because they have very little income with just a handful of year-round parks being open that time of year. So that's their goal. That's their saving grace. But what we have to explore, why the company does it is kind of immaterial to us. It comes down to you, the guest, and what it means to you. So let's pull up the methodology here. And these are numbers as of yesterday, which was June 9th when I looked at this stuff. So a gold membership is a $40 initiation fee and then $10 a month on top of that. All these are a 12-month commitment. Prestige Pass, $40 initiation fee and $24 a month. Dining is $25 initiation and $12 a month. And Fastlane is $100 initiation fee and $165 a month. So the real question is, how does it compare to an actual season pass if you bought it outright? And again, these are the most current numbers. So very close. It's a gold pass is about $10 cheaper. $150 outright as opposed to $160 total for the program over 12 months, and it's also interest free. Prestige Pass is $325 versus $328 for the membership. Dining's $145 versus $169 for the membership. Drinks and Fun Picks are not available on the membership program. They're $55 and $56.99 respectively. Here's the real kicker. Fastlane, if you bought it right now, $1,249 for all season Fastlane. If you do it through the membership, $2,080. So that's an intentional gateway right there.
Oh, yeah. And that they know that people aren't going to look at this close enough to really be able to, break it down on what they're spending versus, the regular pass, gold pass, prestige pass versus membership. So there will be a little bit of, hoping that people go into this blindly and they're going to be doubling what they're paying.
Yeah. And the financial person in me, I do not have a problem with the $10 difference between gold and the membership and, the $3 difference between gold and prestige, because they are giving you technically a 12-month no interest loan. Now, there are some ethical questions that I have in terms of I'm paying for a membership for a region in which all the parks are closed for 4 months out of the year. So I have a little trouble with the phraseology of the membership, but with the exception of the fast lane thing, which is atrocious, is this really that different from a payment plan? Because you're committed to 6 payments or 9 payments as opposed to 12 with the payment plan.
Not really, but my question for you, Ryan, and I could not find this broken down on the website anywhere. So you have the payments for 12 months, and then it says you just continue to pay.
Right.
Every month it just kind of rolls over. How long is that $10? I mean, at any point, can they just jack it up to 15 or 20?
My understanding is that Six Flags has done that in the past. But with that same token, the price does go kind of down because, if you look, there's the initiation fee. I don't think you're charged that every year. I think you're charged that once. So it might end up being a little bit cheaper year 2. But that's planning pretty far ahead. Don, I discussed the 2 different ways. One, just spitfire with me, theorize. Do you think that this is something that worked well for the Six Flags Legacy Parks and they're bringing it to the Cedar Fair Legacy Parks? Or do you think that this is a desperate cry for money in Q1 of 2027?
Well, I mean, I think it worked okay. I don't think it was, if it was that good of a program, they would have started it immediately right after the merger with it. It has potential upside. There are other parks that do it. I know the Busch Parks had the memberships and that. But my thoughts here, okay, let's start with, season passes. They remain popular because of their simplicity. Guests pay once, or maybe they do the payment plan. They got 5-6 months, whatever the terms are at the time you buy it. You receive a season of access. You avoid those recurring bills. For many families, especially those who visit a single park several times a year, the traditional model, still makes the most sense to me, I think, on this. Memberships, however, they align with the broader, trends across the entertainment industry. Consumers, they've grown accustomed, Ryan, to increasingly, they're increasingly comfortable with subscription-based services. From streaming platforms and fitness memberships to software subscriptions. So I think that's, what the consumer today is kind of accustomed to. So they probably will adapt to this pretty quickly. Monthly payments often feel more manageable for a lot of people than one big, fee for buying a season pass, than a larger upfront expense, even when, the annual cost is comparable. For Six Flags, memberships create a more predictable revenue stream for them, while encouraging long-term engagement. I think that's what they're looking for here too, is that long-term engagement. The company has emphasized the value of recurring revenue, and that's what this would be. And like you said, they would be able to go in and report, great first quarter earnings and all that. Memberships, help maintain an ongoing relationship with guests instead of just relying on annual renewal cycles. The question is not whether season passes are going to disappear anytime soon. I think there's little evidence at this time to suggest that. A more compelling question, I think, Ryan, is whether memberships will gradually become the company's preferred offering, and that'll be what they focus on with all of their marketing efforts. If memberships continue gaining traction, Six Flags could shift more perks, exclusive benefits, incentives, more toward the subscribers. Make it more worth their time to do that. So similar strategies have emerged in other industries, and, where subscription customers receive the most value, most valuable rewards and experiences. And, someone who has watched the theme park industry evolve over several decades, I believe the most likely outcome is a kind of a hybrid approach. Traditional season passes will continue serving guests who continue to prefer a one-time purchase. And I think the memberships will appeal to visitors that are seeking that flexibility, regional access, and enhanced benefits. And for Kings Island fans, I think the key question, it may not be whether memberships replace season passes, but how quickly they become the preferred option.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely an interesting thought, and that's kind of where my head was at. But I do want to give a little bit of pushback. Because, first of all, if memberships replace season passes, like that's it for Kings Island, because that attitude of they'll come anyway is going to be real simple when you're not even hawking season passes. When it's like everybody just auto renews and it's 12 months a year or whatever, like why invest in the park? People won't think to cancel it, So if you're a Kings Island fan, you care about the park, you should be rooting against this. But I think that you made mention of like gym memberships, Netflix, stuff like that. I think the problem with calling it a membership is that there's no time when you subscribe to Netflix where there's 3 months where you can't use it.
That's true.
And there's no, like, I'm a member of Planet Fitness. They renovated my Planet Fitness over 2 weeks. I can get into anyone with my card, but some people can only get into a single club, and they expanded it. So, all right, you can go to any of the other ones. And I guess technically, you can get into any Six Flags park, but that's realistically, it's not like, oh, it's February, I wanted to go to Kings Island. Now we'll go to Knott's instead. I mean, that's not the same thing.
No, I mean, let's be honest. The majority of the people that own even a Prestige Pass right now, and they can go to all the parks, the majority might go
to Cedar Point.
Cedar Point, if they even go to Cedar Point, and maybe out of that, even a smaller percentage may add Carowinds or Kings Dominion to that. So very few are, looking at that, and especially like the families. Very few are just taking that and going everywhere. Every weekend they're somewhere else at a Six Flags park. It just doesn't happen that way. Sounds good in theory when they keep saying, you can go to all these parks and that, but very few do. I mean, the coaster enthusiasts, yeah, they're going to go everywhere. But the families, vast majority of the Kings Island pass holders, they're Kings Island fans. They don't really go to too many other parks.
Sure. And now my other thought was this. You talked about whether or not it will replace season passes and stuff. How do you get yourself out of this conundrum? They put season passes on sale, lowest price of the year in the fall. What do you do about memberships? Are people that renew going to get a lower rate? And are you perpetually going to get a lower rate? Are new members going to get no initiation fee? Like, how do you handle that? I feel like,
that's going to be interesting. And what they do when the 2027 passes go on sale. I can see a world where there are no payment plans with regular passes, so it's just an upfront fee, and that will drive more people to memberships. Those that need those payment plans, those families of, 3, 4, 5 individuals, they're going to want some kind of a payment plan. And the only payment plan, is likely going to be membership. So if you want Prestige, whatever price they put it on at the fall, whether that's $200, $300, whatever it is, it's an upfront fee right there. So I think that will help drive some people to transfer over to memberships. But I think the timing of it right now is a little odd because they're putting it out there. It's they've made several social media posts about, get your membership now and all that. If you've already got your season pass for 2026 and it's good through December 31st, you're not likely to get the membership right now. You're not going to decide to do that until maybe it's time to renew, or if it's an upfront fee, just everything has to be paid at once for season passes. They would wait until, January, February to switch over to memberships. So it's kind of a, little bit of an interesting time to see how that's all going to transpire and work out for them.
Yeah. And then I think that as far as driving new revenue, this is going to hurt them a little bit more too, because if everybody's perpetually a member, then you can't really give. Every year we do the subject, give the gift of a gold pass to Kings Island. You can't really do that if you're subscribed to it. It's not like you hand them a card saying another year, when you can say like, hey, I renewed your pass. I feel like that's not the same thing. And especially with season passes expiring on December 31st, if you're going to switch to memberships, you're going to do it right after Christmas.
Yeah, my biggest thing that I would guard against, though, is just, it sounds good right now that it's $10 a month for 12 months, and then it automatically renews every month. It's just what that price is going to be in month 13th. In the 13th, 14th month, is it still going to be $10 for you? Is it going to be, 15, 20? That's what you don't know by doing this. So I think there is some risk involved there. There's nothing. I'd like to see them put some kind of something out there on their website that locks in a price for a certain amount of period that you're guaranteed, past the 12 months, because you're asking guests who have long had a gold or, Prestige season pass or platinum before Prestige was introduced and all that. And you're asking them to switch over to something that's a little bit of an unknown, how it's really going to work, for them. So I think that's a little bit of a question mark. But I do foresee, though, again, not having the option to, put down a certain amount and have a, 5 or 6 months payments of, just $8 to $10, whatever it is, every year in the fall. I don't see that happening. I think it's, if you want to get the regular season pass options, you're paying the full freight up front, or you can do the memberships, or else they wouldn't be rolling this out like this right now.
Yes. Now, timing does mean a lot, and it was very questionable when they added the regional passes, which may mean that when John Riley came in, he wanted to do this, and it just took some time to get the ducks in order. But it also may mean that they're not getting the season pass revenue that they thought they were going to, and this is an attempt at that. That we don't know.
Yeah, I would say that that's probably playing a part into why June 8th that this was introduced, is that the spring season has not gone as well as they expected with season pass sales.
Yeah, and then another thought I had, you mentioned, well, what about in month 13? What's it going to cost? And I'm completely on board with that line of questioning. But the other thing to litigate is what I kind of mentioned. In the fall, are they going to offer people a $7 a month gold pass and you're stuck with a $10 a month gold pass? I mean, you shouldn't buy this now. Let's make this very clear. We've seen people online that have a season pass that have bought this. Do not do that. You are good until December 31st. You're paying them twice if you get a membership on top of a season pass. Wait till the end of the year. Heck, even if you really want to feel saucy, you could add the membership once the new passes for 2027 go on sale. If they offer you some sort of deal like the VIP pass or whatever. So many unknowns. And honestly, this doesn't negate any of the questions that we had about the VIP sale of what are they going to do? Are they going to backpedal the prices? Because, they can't skyrocket them after having $99 and $99 passes, but they can't keep them that low. It's unsustainable. They've got that problem. Yeah. Now they've got the membership problem as well. So I've got a feeling they didn't think that far ahead. I think
no. And I like I said, I do think you're not going to have that, where get a gold pass for $99 in the, in the fall when that goes on sale in August or even late July, like last year. And then it's just, like $7, $8 a month. You're not going to have that payment option with those passes. I don't think anymore. I think that's going to be gone. And if you want a payment plan, your only choice is going to be memberships. They're going to have to streamline that a little bit. Now, from Six Flags perspective, though, Ryan, I do think this does make a lot of sense. In the position that they're in, especially, they do need that recurring revenue. Majority of their parks, outside of like Knott's Berry Farm, is they're seasonal. They're closed for several months a year. So they need that recurring revenue. They're not like Universal or Disney, where they have money coming in 12 months a year, from the gate being open. So I think it makes a lot of sense. It's just going to be interesting to see how they're able to really execute this. Execution has not always been a strong point. Communication has not been a strong point. So now's a time where they have to do both.
Exactly. And again, it was one of those things where the VIP sale, definitely they did not take a measuring stick or a litmus test as to how this would affect 2027, because it's such an unknown. So do they underprice the thing to the point where, welcome, have a Six Flags Day? Do they do that? Or do they jack up the price and then risk really alienating people that paid $50 less the previous year? And honestly, jacking up the price is probably the right decision to make. And then you got these memberships. And then at that point, are you locked into it? Because I know I've got friends that, have had like the diamond membership to Six Flags, and you get like 50% off merchandise and stuff. They offered you everything because they were desperate.
I had the diamond pass for Six Flags before the merger. So yeah, I'm very aware of how that all worked.
Yeah. So, what are you going to do with that? So I'm very curious as to how this unfolds right now. For me, obviously, I don't have to make this decision until December 31st. I would encourage anybody else that has a season pass to not make this decision until December 31st. Most certainly do not make the decision before you find out what 2027 pricing is going to be like, because who knows what they have up their sleeve, if anything. But Don, what are your thoughts? Do you think you'll switch to a membership, or would you buy a pass like a la carte?
Well, I think if I had to make the decision today, I'm not doing either.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not doing either. As I look toward 2027, there's several reasons, for that. Won't go into it here on the podcast, but until a couple things would change. I've spent my last dime there. I'll use my pass for the rest of this year. When I decide to go, but I have to see a couple things different, and then I'll really look at these two options, and then I would make a choice then if some things did change.
What if I offered you the opportunity to have a 12-month experience paying for your season pass. And that is the phraseology they used in the press release. A 12-month experience, where we made a season pass a 12-month experience. Yes, paying for the pass, not visiting the park. I get like not. I mean, I'm a Disney and Universal. I'm an annual pass holder, as they call them there. But I'm a member because I'm committed for 12 months to these parks. But I can also go anytime I want. You know?
Yeah, I think I like the part where it says you're engaging with us, throughout the entire year, 12 months. Yeah, you're engaging with them by paying for 4 or 5 months that you can't go visit the parks.
By pulling up your US Bank app, you engage with them January, February, March. I've always missed paying them money during the coldest months of the year. My birthday's in January. So the one thing I wish I could do on my birthday is not visit the park. It's actually pay a membership fee. Hopefully it comes out on the 18th.
Yeah, but like I said, I do like the idea of it. I just hope that they're able to, really execute it and really communicate, what's going on with it. Be a little bit more transparent about, all the differences between. I know they, recently did a little blog about it and stuff. But still, I mean, it's just one of those things we've seen many times where terms and conditions are subject to change.
Terms are subject to change,
and they do. And I'd like to see what it actually is before being someone that jumps on board. And there have been people that we've seen already. They have their pass. It's good through December 31st, but they've already committed to the membership. They're paying right now for something they already have access to for the next 6 months.
Yeah, and honestly, I guess my final advice for somebody that's not me would be, if you don't have a pass, look at the options and which one makes more sense for you. If you can drop the money, it's probably a little bit better for the peace of mind just to do that. But we are like almost a third of the way through the season now. So a 12-month membership that'll buy you, a couple months in 2027, that could make sense. You pay a few dollars more, but whatever. But
if you don't have a season pass right now, that would be something, to consider, that you get the rest of this year and up until June next year.
Yeah. So it's something to consider. I'm not going to put my foot down the way I did with the Prestige Pass, because again, I'm going to evaluate what this looks like in 2027. And if it makes better sense for me, then it will. I'm a bigger fan of not having payments in general. I paid off my car 3 years early just because I got tired of paying for it. But with that being said, after that initial fee, if it's $10 a month for a gold pass or whatever, and it's cheaper that way, that may make sense. Now, under no condition should anybody, if you need to do the $2,200 option for the fast lane, you need to spend your money elsewhere. You are out of your freaking mind. I cannot allow that. The $1,000, okay, the $1,250, a little much, but when they price it out to be over $2,000, it's $2,200. No fast lane in the world is worth that. So, speaking of perpetual money grabs, this was actually sent to me by Mr. the Field Reporter, Noah the Field Reporter's father, at the park today, as of this recording. They're doing a new thing, and this is, it looks like it's for the games over in Coney Mall, the squirt racing game and so on, where it's $20 for an entire family. And if you look at it, it can do up to like 10 people. So that's $2 a person. It's a heck of a deal. But Don, at this time, if it's $20 for a whole rack of people, they're charging 10 or 15 for one person normally. Is this another one of those VIP sale situations where you're never going to be able to go back to your previous pricing?
I don't know that you can't go back to your previous pricing. I like what they're trying to do here. I think that, when you look over the last several years, there's always been different times of the year that they have some different deals with games, different ways that they've promoted it. And I think this is just another piece of that. But that is a heck of a deal, especially for those that, have not wanted to play the games because it is a little pricey, like you said, $10 to $15 sometimes. So something like this, it's going to maybe incentivize you to try and play a couple of games.
I agree with you, except for the price. The price is scary low. So is this a desperate death whale, or do you think that this is just some crack marketing person that determined that $20 was an appropriate price for 10 people to play a game? Because it's cheaper than an arcade game at that point.
It is. I like number one, like I said, people, because of the price, you don't see as many people playing the games as you used to at Kings Island. This is a way to kind of, get them back to playing some games. They get hooked on it. And then, when these deals aren't available anymore, then, they're more willing to spend, the going rate to play a game because, they've enjoyed it. They like the competitiveness of the games. And so I like what they're doing here. I think it's a good thing.
I disagree wholeheartedly, like aggressively disagree, because I think if somebody plays this game and they pay, let's say they've got 8 kids. So like we're dealing with like the early on Duggars from 19 Kids and Counting when they only had 8 kids. So mom, dad, and 8 kids all get to play for $20. Mentally, Jim Bob, the father, sees this as a $2 per person value.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he's going to turn around and spend $100 the same thing a few weeks later, even if he has a good time?
I think they gradually work back up to that. Yes, I do. I think that's how that works. You get them hooked, interested. The kids want to play. They're going to go to the park again. It's now more expensive, but they're still going to want to play. Dad's not going to want to disappoint. I think it's a smart play by Kings Island.
My dad would totally have disappointed. I think that the other problem is, oh, little Billy wants to play. Hey, let's wait till they have another one of those $20 deals. We'll do that. I think that's the other thing you run into.
I mean, that does happen. So yeah, but no, I think, it's sad sometimes to walk around and you just see nobody playing the games. I mean, the Midway games used to just be packed all the time, back in the 70s, 80s, I always go back to the old days, but, there's days you walk up and down Coney Mall and nobody's playing, so if this helps get more people to play, then I'm all for it.
I just feel like it's coming at a price. There's another change to the games. This isn't as kind of comical, but it is actually kind of interesting. This is for the Human Claw. They now have a mystery capsule where you could win a free ride pass, which I'm wondering is a fast lane or a single-use fast lane, or just the ability to ride a ride.
I would imagine it's probably a single-use fast lane.
Yeah, I mean, the thing though is a single-use fast lane has very little intrinsic value, but the perceived value of the inflatables and stuff in there are pretty high. Mm-hmm. I mean, now it's $20 for 10 people to play, so it's not that bad. But I don't know. I had people telling me it was fast lane, but the way that it reads, I think it's a single ride pass. Because I think they would have said fast lane if it was fast lane. But the Human Crane thing, I like the idea. I put a short up of that last year, or the year, whenever it was new, last year, or the year before. I got like 30,000 views before I left the park. So that was interesting. But it's very visual and stuff. And I think it's cool that they're trying new things because, the inflatables and the plush and stuff that are in there are kind of boring. So something like this might be more widely appealing to more people.
I agree.
All right. I'm out of breath. We knew that this whole membership conversation was going to be, we're going to be like kind of intense, and that was fun. It was definitely the conversation I thought you and I would have.
I wrote a piece about it on Theme Parks by Don, published, I think it was on Monday, when it launched. I put a lot of thought into it, mm-hmm. how this is, why Six Flags would do it, what they're looking to do. But it'll be interesting to see how it all works out.
Yeah. Hey, let's take a moment to thank our Prestige members. Now we have to make that distinction. We had it first. Let's give a big shout out to Miss Mandy, 1983, Lil Mac, 21, Brian Hauser, 330T, Aaron Bort, Jacob Thick, Stamen Barnes, Dakota Cole, Eric Rao, Gibson Hills, Dustin Jackson, Songstress Miku, Medic 302, Eastern Coaster, Guys and Girls, Justin Y, Mike Garrett, Galaxy B-Boy, Greggy Rocks, Kayla La, T. Cleveland, Tim Dwelly, Sun Fun Sarah, Ian Ross, and Connors Lionel Trains. Thank you guys so much for supporting Tower Topics at the highest level. That's the prestige level. If you want to be involved in Tower Topics, there's a link in the description. Members get early access to the videos, exclusive content, exclusive live streams, and some tiers even get a free t-shirt. And by the way, Don, today, Wednesday, the 10th, we shipped out the t-shirts for those of you who send me the address. Now, if you didn't send me your address and we owe you a t-shirt, or even if we don't, for the gold members, just go ahead and send it. We did have extras printed, and I will personally ship them out for you. Just make sure that you send your name, your YouTube username, and your t-shirt size to hosts at towertopics.com. That's HOSTS at towertopics.com. Your name, your YouTube username that I read here, your shipping address, and your t-shirt size. That would be great. There's a couple of you I never heard from. I definitely want to get you guys your shirts. Most of them will be, I think, Erica's our printer. She said Friday, most of them are going to arrive. So the day this drops, be on the lookout for them. Some of them may be a little bit later. There's one that was an odd size that she had to wait an extra day to get the shirt in. So that one might be, as far as Monday or whatever, but they are coming. And again, if you haven't sent me your information, it's not too late, but thank you all for your patience with that. I really appreciate it. That was definitely more of an undertaking than I kind of thought it was going to be, but we're here and we're happy to be here. Stick around. We got the listener questions coming up next. All right. First listener question from Ben Roberts from Whereabouts Unknown. He said, I feel like this goes hand in hand with cheap passes this year. What an appropriate topic. A good friend of mine was in line and noticed line jumpers, and him being the way he is called them out, which caused them to get irate. They got security there, which eventually got those guests booted from the park. But that's where it gets interesting. My friend got home that night, and the guest he got booted from found him on Facebook and sent him a friendly message about he knows where he lives, and now he's going to turn his house into Swiss cheese. All over line jumping. This is $99 passes or $9 memberships at work right there. At the current path the park is in with all the garbage it lets in, it just might actually be time to not renew until they get their crap together. It's really becoming not fun anymore. Appropriate topic. And I didn't want to bring this up because I just couldn't think of a way to sandwich it in. But I do honestly wonder if the park is too accessible. That's been a problem for a long time, and memberships are only going to make that worse.
Yeah, and I think, Ben, you're spot on there. It is a product of cheap season passes, bringing in sometimes the wrong crowd there. Where you say it's really becoming not fun anymore, and whether you should renew. You're not alone. I see that a lot, whether it's on social media or people that are dropping messages to me or to Ryan telling us that, this is it. They're not going to renew. We have heard that a lot where people say they're not going to renew. They turn around, they do it. But maybe this is finally, that point because of how it is getting there. Now, the part about, them messaging on Facebook, threatening, to turn the house into Swiss cheese and that, if I'm, them, since they message you on Facebook, who they are, I'm certainly letting security know that, here's the people that, got booted out for line jumping and now they're threatening. They know who they are. If they got passes, they can ban them from the park.
Let the police know too. They threatened your life.
Exactly. So, don't let that sit idle, definitely, let it be known that this is what happened because nobody deserves that. It's line jumping, just stand in line like everyone else, wait your turn, so I think that, you certainly have to let the park and let the police know that situation has happened, unfortunately.
Yeah. And you know what? I've seen more now. I do want to give the park credit. They've been great about like, hey, this person line jumped, gone out of the line. At least I've never seen somebody kicked out of the park. My guess is this person got a little belligerent with security or whomever accosted him, or him or her. Let's be fair. I saw a group that line jumped in Banshee, and a group told on them, and they were just not allowed to ride. And the woman, got on the ride and closed the restraint, and there was this girl, and she's like flipping her off and saying like acting like she was going to hit her and all that stuff. Again, that's what cheap passes bring. That's what too accessible of a park brings. And it's not necessarily, my thesis here isn't that poor people act like that. My thesis here is that if there's no value to the park, if you're young and you have a undeveloped frontal cortex, as they try to use in defense of crime and so on, why wouldn't you act like that?
Yeah, and it's becoming a big problem with line jumping at Cedar Point too. You look at the different Facebook groups every day. There's multiple people, posting about the line jumping issue and how that's a problem. So they definitely have to deal with that. But you're right, Ben. It is a product of the cheap passes, and that's that's what's happening there. You made it too accessible for everybody, and you're bringing in sometimes the wrong crowd.
All right, here's a lovely one. This isn't the same vein. So this is going to be really kind of a blue listener question section. Jeremy from Loveland said, Don and Ryan, I was riding Diamondback, and one of the workers pointed to my Tower Topic shirt when checking my restraint and said, Tower Topic sucks, and asked why I support you clowns. I guess they're not a fan of the show. I had an issue with stands and restaurants being out of ice. The workers didn't seem to care that me and the others had to get drinks with no ice. I got an eye roll when I said I wanted ice. What's happened to Kings Island? Well, if you could see the first part of our show about it being too cheap, that's part of the explanation. But I will tell you this, and Don, I'm definitely, I know I'm taking over this, but
no, you're fine. You go. You're on a roll. You go.
Yeah, I'm on a roll. So
yeah, you go, Ryan.
People that work at the park are very passionate. They do work very hard. And if anybody works at the park and they don't like us, I think that's understandable because we critique things at the park. Okay. And it would be kind of like taking something that, you're passionate about. I mean, obviously, like, you're passionate about Tower Topics. You write us all the time. You watch every show. And then somebody saying it's a clown, like that bothers you. So like, I understand the psychology, but to me, when I read this initially, what came to mind was I would expect this at a Legacy Six Flags park 10 years ago. Like, why would you ever go to a guest and say, your shirt sucks? Like what kind of employees do they have now? Like, is this what a Six Flags Day is, as many people joke about? I think it's incredibly sad. And there's one reason why this person did it. And it's not because they're so overly passionate about Six Flags, or maybe they're friends with maybe a little over makeup social media manager or whatever. It's because they knew they could get away with it. They're under such poor leadership in a lot of cases that they knew that even if you talked about this to us and we talked about it on the show, they're not going to do anything about it. If you reported it to the management, they're not going to do anything about it. You report it to the supervisor, they're not going to do anything about it. So why wouldn't they do that?
Right. They know.
Exactly. So Don, I'm going to open it up to your thoughts if I haven't truncated everything.
What I know is you would never see that outside of a Six Flags park because that employee would not be working there anymore. If they did something like that, the culture wouldn't allow it. So I'll leave it at that. As far as the ice thing and the eye roll, that's another thing that starts at the top with the culture. I just, was recently at Universal and at Disney, and I've done other parks, Dollywood and Holiday World, and at those parks, they can be asked the same question, 1,000 times. And they treat it as though it's the first time they've ever heard it.
As you should.
There's no eye rolling or anything like that, but it's the culture, and it used to be like that at Kings Island. They were trained to treat everything like it's the first time you've ever had that situation and do what you have to do to make it right for the guest. To roll your eyes because there's no ice. I mean, it's a guest expectation that you have ice. And let's be honest, it really shouldn't be a problem with ice at Kings Island because other parks have it figured out.
Yeah. Why don't you call Dollywood or Universal? It's way hotter at Universal. They have it figured out. Call them. See what they're doing. See if their ice is different.
Yeah. Holiday World's
hotter than all the other parks.
Yeah. Free and unlimited soft drinks all day long. But it's not that hard to figure out, a system and have somebody assigned to making sure that there's ice. It's a simple thing. It's a guest expectation. You get a drink plan, you expect to have ice with your drinks. You do have the apologists that will say, oh, so what? You didn't get ice. Just suck it up. Drink your drink. No, it's a guest expectation. This is where Kings Island's failing, and it starts at the top. The culture allows this kind of stuff to happen. And until more guests put their foot down and stop going, at that point in time, they'll take care of it and there'll be ice all the time. And there will be no eye rolls once it starts to impact the bottom line.
Well, and they'll have the expectation that you don't tell somebody that, I mean, if this person will do that, like what if somebody's wearing like a Trump or a Biden shirt or something? Hey, he's an idiot. Like, is that where we're at? Where you feel at liberty to like critique somebody's clothes? I'm wearing a Tower of
that may happen. We don't know. We just know that what's his name? Jeremy here brought it up to us about, he's wearing a Tower top. First of all, thanks for purchasing the shirt. But I don't know. I mean, it's just, you just wouldn't expect that, and there was many, many years at Kings Island where that would not have been acceptable, you treat every guest with respect and that. And certainly that wasn't happening here because somebody chose to wear a Tower Topics shirt. They're being asked, why do you support those clowns? To me, that's unacceptable, Ryan. I just don't know why that's allowed to happen, but it does.
Yeah. And again, any problems with us, like, that's fine. Like, I understand the perspective, but why would you say that to a guest?
Right.
Like, why would you, like, again, like, well, you're
even
wearing
if you're riding Diamondback, Ryan, and this individual, knows who you are, they still should just check your restraint and keep going down the line. They shouldn't say anything like, I don't like your shit. I mean, that's not when you're working like that, you shouldn't be doing that. They just have to check your lap bar and treat you like every other guest. That's what the role should be.
Yeah. I wish you had included the guy's name because we would have said it on the air. I'm just saying.
Well, we don't know if it's a guy or a girl. They just said one of the workers.
Hey, no fine lady would ever call us clowns. They would. Okay. I'm Ryan. That's Don. This is Tower Topics, and we're clowns.